This will be the first time that I'm sharing my story. I've never told anyone about this before because I'm scared of the way people will react, but here we go. This event happened back in 2016 when I was 26. Me and my best friend, I'll call him Tanner, were out drinking at your typical Irish pub. Tanner was there with his girlfriend, who I've also been friends with for a few years. I'll call her Sarah. Me and Tanner started drinking early, and Sarah got there later in the night. I remember Sarah being mad at me for letting Tanner get as drunk as he was. Sarah chilled out after I ordered a few rounds of tequila for us, and we resumed having a good time, laughing about all of the funny times we've had together. Me and Tanner originally went to the pub to watch a live band we've seen a bunch of times perform, but for some reason, they never ended up showing up. So we just continued to drink beer after beer and shot after shot. I admit I was really drunk, but I can say for a fact, drinking alcohol had nothing to do with whatever was about to happen to me. Tanner and Sarah started arguing about something. I can't remember what it was, but it was probably something stupid because those two were always getting mad at each other over nothing. Tanner ended up saying something like, "Fine, we'll just go home right now then." And I remember feeling bummed out that my best friend was gonna leave when we were having such a good time. I convinced them to stay for one more shot on me. I told the barmaid to bring another round to the table. Tanner and Sarah asked for their bills, and I got up to go to the bathroom. When I was taking a leak at the urinal, I felt kind of dizzy for a second and thought I might have to throw up. I thought to myself, maybe it was a mistake ordering another shot. As I was walking out of the bathroom, I saw Tanner and Sarah looking at me, already holding their shot glasses in the air, saying, "Come on, come on." Tanner handed me my shot. We banged the glasses together and said cheers. Tanner and Sarah got up. I gave them both a hug and we said our goodbyes. I asked, "How are you guys getting home?" Tanner said he was just going to drive. I said, "Just get a cab. You don't want to get pulled over or crash your new car." He argued with me, saying it was only a 5-minute drive and that it wasn't worth it to leave his car at the pub and take a cab. I told him again that I thought it was a bad idea, but he kept saying it would be fine, so I gave up trying to get through to him. He said he would text me when they got home, and I said something like, "Okay, I'll be waiting for it," waving my phone in the air at him. After about 30 minutes, I still had not received a text, but to be honest, I kind of forgot about it as I was mingling with other people at the pub. That's when I felt my phone vibrate. It was Sarah calling me. I answered her call and was about to say something like, "Took you guys long enough," but before I could say anything, she was yelling into the phone crying, saying something I couldn't make out. I said, "Calm down, what's going on?" She said they got into an accident. She was crying so much I could barely make out what she was saying. I kept asking questions like, "How bad is it? Is Tanner hurt? Are the police there?" Then she started hysterically saying over and over again, "He's not moving. I think he's dead. He's not waking up. He might be dead." Then she said that she saw the police cars coming and hung up on me. My heart sank to my stomach. I tried to call her back probably 10 times, but no answer. I didn't know how to react as I was in pure shock and felt like I was going to throw up. I ran to the bathroom and threw up into the sink. I was looking at myself in the mirror, and all I could feel was anger. I started punching the walls of the bathroom and screaming. I sat on the ground by the sink and thought about how it was all my fault. If only I would have taken his keys. If maybe I didn't ask him to hang out that night, this all could have been avoided. I picked myself up and wiped the tears out of my eyes. I didn't want to be here anymore. People were looking at me and laughing. I just wanted to pay my tab and leave. When I left the bathroom, I came around the corner to where my table was, and I couldn't believe my eyes. I saw Tanner and Sarah holding their shot glasses saying, come on, hurry up." I froze up. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know if it was even real. Tanner said something like, "You don't look too good." I grabbed him and started saying a bunch of jumbled nonsense, trying to explain what just happened. He then laughingly said something like, "Maybe you don't need another one of these." I let out the biggest sigh of relief and teared up again. I was so confused, but was also so relieved. It was the same feeling you get when you awake from a terrible nightmare and realize you're safe in your own bed. I sat there speechless for a second. Tanner and Sarah took their shots, and then Tanner grabbed his keys. I said, "Tanner, wait, how are you getting home?" He said he was just going to drive, as they lived only 5 minutes away. I started to freak out. I felt the whole event I had just witnessed was happening again. I yelled out, "No, give me your keys. I'm paying for your cab home." He was saying something like, "What's your deal? It's all good." I said, "No, trust me, it's not a good idea." I pulled cash out of my wallet and said, "Here, take it." I also said that I would drive him back to the pub in the morning to get his car. He said, "All right, thanks, man," and that it's probably for the best. I remember watching them leave, feeling so confused as to what was going on. I yelled across the bar, "Message me when you get home," waving my phone in the air. Sarah waved goodbye, and Tanner just smiled as they walked out of the door. I sat at my table with my head in my hands for about 10 minutes, then felt a buzz from my phone. It was Tanner. He said thanks for the cab home, and that he was worried about how hungover he was going to feel in the morning. I could feel an intense weight being lifted off my chest, and I finally called my own cab home. For the next few days, everything felt weird to me. I didn't know what to think of this thing that happened. I didn't know if I should go see a psychiatrist or talk to my friends and family about it. I decided to keep it to myself because I've always been scared of what people would think of me after telling them this insane story. I've been thinking about this for almost every day for the past few years. It brings me closure to finally share my story, even if it is anonymously. I feel like, for some reason, something gave me another chance to save my friend. I don't know what it is or why it happened. I just pray something like this never happens again. This happened to me when I was around the age of 6. I was watching late-night cartoons on the TV, as I did every night before bed, and my parents were having company over, as this was very common for them around this time. I don't remember falling asleep, but I remember waking up in my room and the TV was off, and the only light coming into my room was from the moonlight peering through my window. My room is almost completely black. I couldn't move at all and felt like I couldn't breathe. Not a feeling of something on my chest, but rather my throat was closed up so tight I could barely get a breath of air. I knew something was wrong, so I tried to call out to my parents, but I was unable to speak. I sat there for probably 5 minutes, scared out of my mind. I heard my parents conversing loudly with their friends in the other room, and I thought to myself that they'll never hear me. I stared at my door, hoping my parents would come in and save me from whatever the hell was happening to me. After about 10 minutes, my door cracked open a little bit and slowly crept open a couple inches. There was a tall figure staring at me through the crack of my door. I couldn't make out anything other than they were really tall and had a blank stare in their eyes. The figure in the doorway backed away, and after another few minutes of trying to cry for help, My mom came in and turned on the lights. I still couldn't move or talk. My mom grabbed my dad and told him there's something wrong with me and that I needed to go to the hospital. They loaded me up in the back seat of the family van and drove off frantically. The only thing I remember about being taken to the hospital is seeing the streetlights coming in and out of the window as we drove down the street. I then lost consciousness. When I awoke, I was in a hospital bed surrounded by nurses. I had an oxygen mask on my face and I was hooked up to the IV. I could almost talk again and I tried to make out the words, "What's happening to me?" But before I could say anything, the nurse says, "Don't worry, you're going to be fine." I fell back asleep. I regained consciousness, seeing my parents happy, standing next to the bed, and the nurses are saying, "I'll be ready to leave shortly." Then the nurse took off my mask and gave me this peach juice I'll always remember. My dad carried me on his back and put me back into the van, and we went home. I woke up in bed the next day and felt really weird, but was relieved that everything was okay. I didn't talk to my parents about it too much because every time I tried to bring it up, they wouldn't talk about it and would start talking about something else. I kind of forgot about it for a long time, but would still think about it when people would ask me, "What's the scariest thing that's ever happened to you?" Years later, when I was in my teens, I brought it up laughingly saying, "Remember the time you guys had to take me to the hospital?" They just stared at me with a confused look on their faces, so I described the whole event in detail, and they looked at me like I was on drugs. They said that I must have dreamt it, so I gave up trying to get them to remember and went back to my room, confused. I full-heartedly believe that this wasn't a dream. It was so vivid and real that I remember almost everything about it. The man in the doorway, the oxygen masks, the juice the nurse gave me, and the absolute helplessness of not being able to move or speak. The weirdest thing is that I was never taken to the hospital before this and had never seen somebody hooked up to an IV. So how could I have dreamt that?